ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਟੀਵੀ। ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਰਸ਼ਦੀਪ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਟੀਮ ਪਹੁੰਚੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕੁਜ਼ੀਨ ਪਾਰਲਰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਲੱਬ ਦੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਡਾਇਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਐਂਡ ਇਨਕਲੂਜਨ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਅਹਿਮਦ ਹੁਸੈਨ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹੋਏ ਆ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ MP ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਸੁਖ ਧਾਲੀਵਾਲ, ਕੈਨ ਹਾਰਡੀ ਤੇ ਪਰਮ ਬੇਂਸ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅੱਜ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਣੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਬਜਟ 2022 ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਤੇ ਕੇਂਦਰਿਤ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਲਿਬਰਲਸ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਬਜਟ ਹੈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਮੋਰ ਅਫੋਰਡੇਬਲ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਜਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ $4 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਆਓ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਲੋਅਰ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ।
First, like Mr. Gill mentioned, I just want to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to come and meet and request for the minister to come, and he's been working very hard on the many files, including housing, diversity and inclusion. Like Mr. Gill mentioned, I should recognize that we're very lucky, very fortunate to be able to live, work and play on the traditional territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, Coast Salish, Kwantlen, Katzie, Semiahmoo here, especially in Surrey. There's several indigenous families. So I want to also maybe just mention before we get back to Mr. Gill and introduce everybody. It's been many years. I was there at the beginning of the Punjabi Press Club when it very first founded, and Mr. Janal Singh was the original president. So it's great to see it's growing, and our media has grown significantly. We had, I believe, back then, many years ago, it was only not even one radio station. Now we have 4 or 5 and multiple TV stations, and it's great to see a vibrant media, and you're so involved in the community and an integral part of our community here. So great to see you all. Thank you for having us. And Mr. Gill.
Okay, before we go, I'd like the members to introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Kuldeep Singh, quickly.
Kuldeep Singh, Radio 1550 AM, KRA, and Sanjha TV.
Amarpal Singh, Canadian Punjab Times.
Singh, Canadian Punjab Times.
Hello everyone, it's Arshdeep from VMedia, Sanjha TV.
Vinny?
Vinny Kaba with Connect FM Radio.
Okay.
Punjabi.
Sorry, Punjabi what?
Tribune.
Tribune, okay, thanks.
CJ Sidhu with Sanjha TV, FYI Media.
Okay.
Paul Gill, Sach the Awaz newspaper.
Baljinder Kaur, FYI Media, Sanjha TV and Radio Punjab.
Very nice.
Okay, before I request the President to introduce our MP for Surrey Newton, Mr. Sukh Dhaliwal, I want to recognize and let the members know that Mr. Sidhu is joining here as a guest, as he will be interviewing the minister later on for his news bites with Sanjha TV. Is accompanying Arshdeep here today. So without any voice. Now I request our President to introduce our Member of Parliament.
First of all, thank you very much, all the members and respected Member of Parliament, Mr. Perm Bains and Sukh Dhaliwal, Ken Hardy. And I would like to say thank you to Minister Honorable Ahmed Hassan. Thank you for your time. Now I would like to say Mr. Sukh Dhaliwal to say a few words before we start. All the members can ask their questions here. Thank you very much, and introduce the minister as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Of course, I call this Sister Baljinder. It's always an honor and it's pleasure, being accountable to you, to the people through you as a media, and Punjabi media, as Param mentioned, has done a tremendous, great work, and over the last many years, and we owe you a big thank you, and thank you for coming today to meet with the minister. Param, of course, he's not new to us, new to the Parliament, but he's been involved for many years as young man. Locally here, I'm very fortunate and happy to have my friend Ken Hardy, a little bit to the east of my constituency in Fleetwood, Port Calls. Anytime we have to put an article together or write something, there is a person to go to in our BC caucus, that is Ken Hardy, because he brings a lot of experience behind him when he was working with the TransLink. most importantly, with us today, Minister Anderson. When I talk about Minister Anderson, I call him my friend, and we became good friends. In the beginning, when he took over as a Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, and you all know, which is very, very close to my heart, and I was always, calling the minister, whether it was early morning or late night, evening, but he was always there to respond and try to help the community, because my constituents, not only my constituents, in fact, people across the nation, and once people are out of the portfolio, then you realize how great work that the minister has done when he was Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, because we really miss him there as a minister. And then he took over as Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development, and all this $10 a daycare, which is a landmark achievement, of his. And finally, now he's a Minister of Housing, Diversity, and Inclusion, which is very, very important to Lower Mainland, and particularly where we are sitting, Surrey, whether it's housing, whether it is the diversity, because Canada is a very diverse nation. Even Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, whether he's here or overseas, he says diversity is Canada's strength, and people of Canada knows that we have progressed economically, socially, and politically because of its diversity.
Yes.
And Minister has brought in a comprehensive housing plan that is going to help many, many individuals in British Columbia, in Surrey, and across Canada. And most of them are, your viewers and your sponsors as well from time to time. Even before Minister got into the political arena, before getting his degree in law and practicing as a lawyer, he was always out there helping the grassroots. And this is the type of individual he is. And he called me last week that he want to come in and talk to the press club here, Punjabi Press Club. And here we go, Minister. Welcome to the beautiful part of British Columbia, and floor is yours.
Thank you so much, my friend, my brother Suk. It is really a pleasure to be here with you. And I remember coming here before the budget, and Suk had really talked to me for a long time. It wasn't just a short conversation. And we had a private meeting, and he really made me understand some of the challenges of housing faced by people in Surrey, and some of the potential solutions, especially with respect to how the federal government can speed up projects, how the federal government can invest in local fiscal capacity. Because a lot of times we expect communities to do more, but maybe they don't have the capacity to do that. And how can we play a role? So it's really great to come back after the budget and be able to tell Suk and all of you, and through you, your community, your residents, how much we have listened and how much we're moving in the right direction. And I can tell you, whether it is Ken Hardy or whether it's Parm Bains or all the other members of our Liberal caucus here in Vancouver and Greater Vancouver area, we talk about housing a lot. And whenever I've appeared with BC caucus, the number one issue is housing. When I meet them separately, or we talk on the phone, or they send me emails about either particular projects or different studies that have come out in terms of affordability, but even the link to immigration. It's very interesting that I think throughout Canada, the place you can see that link most vividly is Surrey. You see the numbers of people coming in, the impact they're having on the local economy, how they're growing this community, but then housing is a challenge. So we need to address housing. And a lot of people talk about housing as a challenge, as a problem. It is a problem for people who cannot find housing. But in many ways, housing can also be viewed as an economic opportunity. Because if you fix housing, you unleash and unlock a lot of economic opportunities for economic development. And so whether it is Parm Bains or Ken Hardy or Sook, I've found in members of BC caucus really a willingness to not only tackle this issue, but also because of their advocacy. I'll tell you something. A lot of our government's national housing strategy programs are not distributed on a per capita basis. They're distributed on an applications basis. So really, the communities and the members who push hardest are the ones who get rewarded. And so I'll just pick one example. We have a program called the Rental Construction Financing Initiative, which is a very popular program. It has grown 7 times. We keep funding more of it because it's a very popular program. And in 2021, that program grew from 12 billion to 25 billion. Now, the population of British Columbia, compared to the rest of the country as a proportion, is about 12 to 15%. But if you look at those billions of dollars in the Rental Construction Financing Initiative, 30% of that money has gone to Lower Mainland. Why is that? That's because these members and other members of our Liberal caucus, and Sook and Ken and Parm and others, have really fought to push the local players to understand that there is a government in Ottawa that is willing to help. And because of that, the province of British Columbia has punched above its weight. Whether you look at rapid housing, which Surrey got a lot of money for, whether you look at RCFI or many of the other programs. So that was the foundation before the budget. Now with Budget 2022, I really wanted to come and have this meeting with you because I think if you read Budget 2022 and you focus on the section on housing, by the way, it was a housing budget, you will notice that a lot of the items in there and the investments and the changes are really addressing a lot of the issues that you brought up. Ending blind bidding. You know, I always say that if Sook and I go and try to go to an auction to buy a car, I know how much Sook is bidding and he knows how much I'm bidding. But if we try to buy a house, I don't know what he's bidding and he doesn't know what I'm bidding. That's not fair. We should have more transparency in the system, and people should not be pressured to waive home inspections and things like that. And so we're going to be creating a buyer's bill of rights to protect people and end blind bidding. But the biggest, I think, item in the housing budget is on the municipalities. $4 billion that we will put on the table through a program called the Housing Accelerator Fund to accelerate projects and double the amount of housing supply in Canada in the next 10 years. How are we doing that? We have recognized that both as the federal government and the BC government, it doesn't matter how much more we do on housing, we need to also unlock the barriers to building more homes at the municipal level, issuing permits, doing the zoning fast. Dealing with those issues of permitting process and delivery process at the municipal level faster saves all of us money. It saves consumers money and it enables us to invest faster in affordable housing and house people better. It also enables us to build more housing for middle-class Canadians, more housing and faster. Right now, we know across the country, in many municipalities, there is the exception, of course, but in many municipalities, projects take too long to be approved, permits take too long to be issued, and there's just a lot of confusion and a lot of delay and a lot of unacceptable, costly delay that falls to consumers. We can't have that. Canada has the fastest growing population in the G7 countries group, but our supply of housing of all kinds hasn't kept up with that demand. So we need to double, according to this budget and what the Prime Minister has said. He has said, we want to double the amount of homes built in Canada in the next 10 years. And we're not just saying that someone else should do it. We are prepared to put money on the table and work with municipal and tax-free coming out, up to $40,000. We're also doubling the first-time homebuyer tax credit to $10,000 to pay for the closing costs, like for the real estate agent and the lawyer and the land transfer tax. I don't know how much it is in BC, but those extra expenses, we're helping homeowners, first-time homebuyers, and we're extending the first-time homebuyer incentive to 2025. This is the shared equity mortgage model, where the government of Canada will pay up to 10% of the value of the home and provide it as a down payment for the first-time home buyers. So we believe all those things will make a difference, and that is how we're helping first-time home buyers. And then finally, we're investing in affordable housing, building more co-op housing, rapid housing initiative, third round. I believe Surrey will benefit again, and building more affordable homes for seniors and for young families, for students, for people who can't afford market rent. So there's subsidized homes that we need to invest in. One we just announced earlier with Parm and Wilson. $1.5 billion more in co-op housing. Now, again, BC has done very well to build more co-ops 30 years ago. We need to build new generation of co-ops. And there is enough money, I tell Suk all the time. In budget 2022, the amount of money that is now available to build new co-ops, there's enough money to build one co-op project in each riding in Canada. So it's pretty significant. It's not a small amount of money. And as I said, finally, on the National Housing Co-Investment Fund, we've brought forward almost $3 billion to build 22,000 new homes, 6,000 new homes additional in the co-ops, 6,000 more in the Rapid Housing Initiative, 70,000 new homes in the Rental Construction Financing Initiative, and actually more money in this budget, and then 100,000 new homes in the Housing Accelerator Fund. So federally, we're saying we cannot fix the housing challenge by ourselves. We need province to step up. We need municipalities to be there too. But we're doing our part to show the leadership, but also to bring the investments. So that's what we're doing. Happy to talk about housing as well more. And then on the diversity and inclusion, we recognize that we cannot just pretend that hatred and discrimination is not rising in Canada. There's a lot of intolerance. I was just in Vernon and Kelowna, and I talked to the Sikh community there, the Muslim community, and they feel that they're under siege. You know, people are writing things on their homes and in their places of worship. That's unacceptable. So we have, as a federal government, again, we're going to provide leadership there in two ways. One, we will provide money and investments to the community organizations who are doing the work. They're the ones who are fighting this racism and this discrimination and hate and intolerance. That's number one. The second thing we will do, which is very, very important, is something that the Supreme Court of Canada has asked us to do. They've defined hatred in recent decisions, because if you look at Canadian law only bans hate speech. It doesn't actually, if you look at the Criminal Code of Canada, I'm a lawyer, it doesn't have any guidance on what is hatred as an element of holding people accountable. So the issue is, a lot of times prosecutors and police, they don't charge people because they think they should only charge people whose hate speech leads to criminal activity or hate crimes. So when you say hate crime, then people think, well, unless the person does something criminal as an act, the hatred is okay. Well, it's not. So the Supreme Court of Canada is saying we need to take action, and one of the things we have to do is put a new definition of hatred in the criminal code, which will provide more clear guidance to police and to prosecutors to charge people. The second thing is we need to support victims of hate. So there's a lot of times when people are attacked through hate-motivated violence, but they're incurring uninsured costs like psychotherapy, medical expenses, like eyeglasses and things like that. We don't pay for that. So we will set up a Victims of Hate-Motivated Violence Support Fund to support people who have been victimized. And we will also make the criminal justice system easier to use for people who are threatened by that kind of act. Unfortunately, a lot of times when our communities are subjected to hate, the criminal system, the criminal justice system, the way it's set up now, unless something actually happens, the police don't take action. So we will be issuing something more proactive called the peace bond, which already exists in criminal law, but it's not used for hate crimes. We will be using it for that. And so if a community or a member of a religious or racialized minority feels threatened, reasonably, they can proactively seek a peace bond against that hateful individual or organization, and there will be conditions put on that person not to come near the potential victim, and if they violate that peace bond, they will be prosecuted. So it's strengthening those protections against hate motivated violence. So we're doing a lot of that, and one of the things I have to do as part of moving forward is to put together a national action plan to combat hate. So on that, it's not just housing. If you have ideas about that, please let us know. And we are still funding those multiculturalism programs. It's a very important fund. If you have events in the community, please know that we are happy to support you financially to have those events or programs from $25,000 to $250,000. So know that that money is there, that fund, and it's throughout the year. There's no deadline, so please apply. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, we'll start with Amarpal.
Yeah, I have a question. Like in the today news, like 20% of Canadian MPs hold a rental investment. What do you want to say about that?
Well, I mean, look, I think public office holders are mandated to report any investment properties or any assets that they own, whether it's a farm or a house or a share in a company. To my knowledge, all the members of parliament from different political parties have disclosed that information. It's part of our requirements. And just like other Canadians, they're allowed to engage in economic activity. A lot of members of parliament become members of parliament while having had a background of business or law or running a company or something like that. So there are rules to prevent members of parliament. There are rules to give confidence to the public, to make sure that we're very transparent. And as far as, to my knowledge, all members of parliament have been following the rules as laid out in the Ethics and Conflict of Interest Act.
You mentioned hate speech and threats and all.
Yes.
You mentioned in detail. Thank you very much for touching this topic. CBC just posted on April 7th a vast story on hate speech and death threats. Canadian academics harassed and criticizing Hindu nationalism in Canada. From India, the person, what is going on there?
Yep.
You and we know everything, right?
Okay.
It's day by day increasing the hate and crime. But the professors' services in universities, they explain everything about the hate crime and death threats in Canada. But from April 7 to today, April 19th, not even single minister, single member of parliament, any politician comment on this thing. It's happening in Canada, and this is CBC report.
So who's threatening? I don't understand.
Professors who are against the Hindu nationalism
Are being threatened?
Yeah.
By who? Who's threatening them?
threatening the Hindu fascist, especially.
But who? From outside or
No, from
okay.
Canada.
Okay. Well, no one should be threatened for expressing their political opinion and beliefs. That's unacceptable. And I wasn't aware of this particular issue, but I can say without any equivocation, I can say unequivocally, anyone, whether he or she is an academic or a professor or just a regular person, no one should be threatened for expressing their own political opinion or engaging in debate. And, threatening someone with harm or death is a criminal offense in Canada. So I would suggest that whoever that is being threatened should go to the police.
No, I don't want about, it's not particular about us.
Okay, sorry.
Anything, but these are 18 professors from Ottawa University,
Okay.
Toronto University, and different part of Canada.
I understand.
Where's the threat coming from? Is it coming from outside?
No, he said
They
local.
are working here in Canada.
I know they're working in Canada, but who is making the threat?
Threats from inside the Canada.
Inside Canada.
different,
Okay.
Who
Okay.
are very
Because in the
right wing of.
in the Chinese
Right.
community, we often see threats coming from China,
China, yeah.
to people in Canada, which is a different
Yes,
issue.
that's right.
Even RCMP is investigating. There are few cases, and they have some very serious allegations.
I see.
My concern is
Okay.
that political people also have to say
Okay.
something about these things.
Well, look, I will say it here since you asked me the question. I wasn't aware before, but now that you made me aware, no one should be threatened for their beliefs. And if someone is being threatened for expressing their political opinion, that is completely unacceptable, and we condemn that. Absolutely.
Mr. Salah.
Thank you, Mr. There is a program going on called Housing Hub. How it works, is that a federal program?
In Surrey, where is that happening?
It's in a BC. It's related to the federal government.
That's so. I believe that's a provincial program, but we do provide money through the National Housing Strategy. We indirectly support that through one of the National Housing Strategy is like an umbrella. There's different programs. One of them is money that we give cash directly to BC and other provinces to do their own housing priorities. And this is one of them. So it's called the Canada, British Columbia Bilateral Housing Agreement. Through that, we provide hundreds of millions of dollars, and they use some of that money to support that hub.
How it works? Like, this is for the low-income people? Or?
Yes, yes, yes.
There's a project in it's Kakanu Nation on 144 that was funded through the federal government and the provincial government, and the CHMC was involved. It's
a collaboration between BC Housing and the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, which is the federal entity that I am responsible for.
Lots of people not aware of that.
Well, so if you have time, I can walk you through the different aspects of the National Housing Strategy, but maybe not in this venue. But please look at the different programs, because all of those programs are being used in BC. But my interest, and I've told Sook this, is, and Parman as well as my friend Ken, is that more people need to be aware of the federal housing programs, because the few organizations that are aware, they use it. They use our programs frequently. BC Housing, we collaborate with them. City of Vancouver, City of Surrey, Burnaby, like a lot of Victoria and so on. But some non-profit organizations in the community are not aware. So therefore they don't know, and it could be useful to them. And also some of the faith groups. I was in a Gurdwara in Kelowna, and I told them they have 80 acres. I told them, if you need affordable housing, we can help you. And the same thing I told to the Muslim community in Vernon. And so wherever I go, I try to update people about the fact that there is a lot of money in the National Housing Strategy that you can get directly. Obviously not 100%. The only program that we fund 100% is the Rapid Housing Initiative, which Surrey got. But usually the other programs, we provide majority of the funding, like 60%, but you still have to come up with the rest. And usually the city gives you another 10, 20%, and then you have to come up with the rest. Yeah.
And that minister said faith organization can play a key role.
Because they have land.
Because they have land.
And land is the biggest hurdle, right?
And last night we were talking, actually, minister and myself were together, and one of the organizations, we can't, just for privacy reasons, we can't, but they are doing is, they're building a religious institution along with a school and along with it also affordable housing.
Yes.
And then I gave them the example of Mara Ranjit Singh. I said, in the old days when he was ruling, that, if you build a religious institution, he was telling, okay, we'll allow you, but you got to build a school. I mean, look at a religious place of worship,
education, and housing.
And the housing. And that's where minister can play a key role, helping many, and many of the organizations here have abundance of land, whether, you can look around.
So organization like PIX will take help of
That PIX is one, yes, and even we are going far beyond. Private enterprise can come.
Yeah, developers, we have a program for developers.
Developers,
We have a program for non-profits. We have a program for both. They can collaborate. There was a project I did in Coquitlam. It was a collaboration between a private developer, non-profit, province, city, federal. 5 partners.
But the major thing that, I don't know if you picked up, Minister said, is that $4 billion that he is investing
in the capacity
to increase the capacity. You are in construction. Like, look at how long it takes to get permits across Lower Mainland. Like, if the city can hire more inspectors, more planners, the process gets faster, and eventually, who's the end payer? End payer is the consumer, right? So it will help bringing the affordability.
Also, the way I see it, honestly, and Suk, you're already ahead of the game on this, and Ken and Param also know this. The municipalities, I believe, because housing is such a challenge now, the municipalities that will move faster to address this issue and invest in their capacity to approve projects faster and build housing faster will attract more skilled immigrants than the ones who refuse to do that, which means these ones will prosper. So I believe that, like if I was the mayor of a municipality in Lower Mainland, I would embrace the Housing Accelerator Fund and use this federal money to fix my system, to be able to increase my capacity to build more and to build faster. Because the communities that do that will be able to attract more skilled immigrants, and the ones that don't do that will not. And we know what will happen. The economic growth, the economic development in this one will be faster and more broader than the other one, right? We know that. So housing is becoming an economic development issue. I said earlier in my speech, people are looking at housing as a problem, but it is also a huge opportunity for communities. If a community gets serious about investing in the ability to build more housing supply faster and the infrastructure that goes with it, they will be ahead of every other community in terms of economic development and job creation and tax revenue and so on, right?
And this is where Surrey has a huge advantage. Because in Metro Vancouver, there are two, what they call growth management areas. One is Coquitlam and the other is Surrey. Surrey and Coquitlam are the two places where most of the growth is supposed to take place in Metro Vancouver. So, and we have land here. Vancouver doesn't have any land left, right? So we have all of the ingredients, including the regional agreement, that we're the place where things are going to happen. So it's all here.
Actually, and you, Ken, you reminded me of something else that I should have mentioned earlier. The federal government invests, if you thought that we invest a lot on housing, our investments in infrastructure are even more. Now, what we're doing now, our bilateral agreements with the provinces have expired, so we have to sign new agreements. As part of the new agreements, we're going to put conditions on federal investments in transit, on federal investments in infrastructure, that we will prioritize if you have, let's say you're the province and you bring forth 10 different infrastructure requests. If 4 of them will unlock housing and the other ones are regular infrastructure, we'll prioritize the ones that are connected to housing. So we're going to be using federal infrastructure dollars more carefully and more deliberately to unlock housing.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. That's really a pleasure that you are clarifying every single thing very clearly. As you said, economic factor, demand and supply.
Yes.
Problem is, just like you said, 2 things. One thing, you are increasing the funding in this 2022 budget.
Yes.
And then supply within 10 years almost double.
Yes. Not almost. We will double it.
You're doubling almost. You said they're doubling
the housing.
Supply.
Yeah.
Housing supply.
Yes.
What about today? The thing is there any other option? Because if somebody was buying a house last couple of years, that was 100,000 or 200. I mean, whatever the price was.
Yeah.
It has been doubled within a couple of years.
Yes.
What is the other option to control those prices?
Well, so here's the issue. I've been asked this question before, but the issue is people who ask that question forget that the federal government doesn't set the house prices. The market does. What we do is we have some tools, the province has some other tools, and the municipality has some other tools, and developers as well. So, but nobody has really brought them together until our government. So just a month before the budget, the Prime Minister met all those players, and we said, okay, as the federal government, what can we do? There's things we cannot do. I can't issue a permit. It's not my job.
Yeah.
I can't make sure, for example, that we set aside 20% of all the land in a particular municipality for affordable housing. Those are local issues, right? But what we can do is we can stimulate that supply. We can make it more, we can incentivize that, right? We can also help. You see, a lot of municipalities, they're fiscally challenged. There's a lot, municipalities, they want to do a lot, but they don't have the money. They just don't have the budget. So what we're saying is municipalities are the ones who can speed up projects, who can increase supply, who can do more mixed housing and so on, but they need help. So we're offering $4 billion, which is a lot of money, to unlock 100,000 homes. Now, that is not 10 years. We want to do that by 2024. By 2024, we want to build 100,000 middle-class homes. That should help with the demand. It should help with the supply. And that is federal dollars. And we're not talking about, if a municipality comes forward and gives us broad promises, it's not good enough. We want to actually see the growth. So when we provide the money, we're not going to provide the money at once. We'll provide it in stages, and they have to show results. We will actually have pay for performance. So this is not some pie-in-the-sky idea. We will actually hold them accountable, and we'll say, okay, last year, how many permits you issued with 5 people who you have on your staff? Okay, we're going to hire 5 more people. Here's their salary, but then you need to double the number. And if you can't, then we're not going to give you the money.
That is the problem in Surrey, especially.
Yeah.
Being in media, a lot of complaints. I'm calling the city of Surrey. We applied last 4 months, 5 months, maybe 6 months.
Yes.
We are not being
So I think you should speak to this one.
building permit.
This is not only a problem in Surrey, in fact,
Yes.
because I'll be more
Mostly I'm just talking about
biased if I talk about Surrey today. I mean, there will be other opportunities that I will. But I tell you, in general, let me talk about Lower Mainland. Particularly, people are facing similar issues in other municipalities as well. What happens is when minister is investing $4 billion, that is where it is going to help. Now, pick up any municipality. Permit takes a year. So minister comes in and say, you should be able to access those funds, but we want to bring that time down by so much. If they are issuing, let me say, 100 permits a month, if we provide them the resources, they have to prove that. Hiring more planners, hiring more building inspectors, hiring more, building plan checkers.
Inspectors,
they increase the capacity and increase the
results.
Okay. And that is what it is. And minister is here today through you to ask for those shares. That's not carved in the stone. That $4 billion, the policy is already set in place.
Right.
$4 billion is set in place.
Yeah,
but minister is here.
Right.
Minister can explain.
Yeah, absolutely. Suk is right. So we have the money in the budget. Now we have to design the program, which is a good thing. Normally, you design a program, then you chase the money, right? We have the money, but we want to hear from you what would work here. What should go into that? Where should we invest that $4 billion? I believe we should invest it at the municipal level because that's where the biggest hurdles are. And that's where, by the way, the rubber meets the road. But where? I believe we should hire more permitting folks. We should speed up zoning. But also we should even sometimes help them to purchase land if they promise to build affordable housing, right? Or mixed housing. Right? So we will help them, even some light infrastructure and so on. But as Suk said, we haven't announced the program. So if there's ideas that you have in terms of how we should improve that program, make it impactful for this area of Canada, we're more than happy to hear from you and through you to your listeners and your viewers.
And
your readers.
To the municipalities as well. They can come up with solutions as well to us. They say, well, listen, this will work better for Port Coquitlam, this will work better for Surrey, or this will work better for Langley. So then those the program that minister develops will be able. This is the beauty of minister being here today, is getting that message out. Yeah. Come to the table, tell us what he as a minister can do to make that process more efficient and more accessible and and helping the builders at the end.
City is not approaching him to get money.
Well, we just announced the program. They will come, but you have a say as well. I mean, you know the system. The design will be influenced not just by cities, but by developers, by nonprofits, by everybody, by MPs. So it's not just the cities.
Minister, welcome to Surrey, British Columbia. Covered a lot of bases in a press conference with the Punjabi Press Club. Thank you for your time. So there is a couple of things that were missing in a presentation, in my point of view. So first of all, what is the part of your ministry called inclusion? What that means?
Yeah, so it's diversity and inclusion, and basically I'm responsible for the multiculturalism programs, anti-racism strategy. I'm also responsible for putting together a national action plan to combat hate. This is our government's response to deal with issues around hate, hatred, and discrimination and intolerance. And we want to build a plan at the federal government level to reinforce communities, to build more community resilience against hate and intolerance in Canada.
So what happened in Ottawa, the Freedom Convoy, and there was some cases, borderline cases, or some very clearly racist kind of.
Yeah, they had Confederate flags over there. They had Nazi flags and so on. I mean, it was an occupation, and I don't agree with what happened there. I think it was unfortunate. Of course, we have the right. We have freedom of expression in Canada. We have the freedom to express our political opinions, but occupying a number of streets in Ottawa and honking and causing a disturbance and flying Confederate flags and Nazi flags is unacceptable. Yeah, swastikas, that's unacceptable.
And did any steps taken that it doesn't happen in the future?
Well, I'm sure the security services, both at the city level, provincial level, and federal level, I'm sure they have learned from this. They're reflecting on these kinds of threats to our public security, and hopefully we'll be in a better shape in the future.
And Minister, my last question will be that when we talk about diversity and stuff, so we look at the boards, federal boards and stuff. There's not enough representation of women and not enough representation of people of color or minorities.
I think you're right. A lot of progress has been made, but we need to do more. There's always a lot more work to be done, and we always have to keep an eye to make sure that the government of Canada in all the different agencies looks like Canadians, and that means that we need all kinds of diversity to be reflected, and that is why it's really important for us to make sure that the civil service continues its efforts to diversify and make sure that everyone in Canada is reflected in the civil service.
So your agreement with the NDP now, they agreed to continue that until 2025. What that means, or you are planning on bringing some issues like a pharmacare, national pharmacare, or dental?
Okay, we're already doing pharmacare, and this is an agreement to support the government on confidence motions and supply motions. That's it, and we already had a program to address the pharmacare needs of Canadians. Affordable housing is another one. But as part of the agreement, we did agree to move forward on dental coverage for Canadians, yes.
Any message you want to share with my viewers?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. It is a pleasure to join members of the community and Punjabi media to discuss affordable housing for Canadians, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹੋਏ ਸੀ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਅਹਿਮਦ ਹੁਸੈਨ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ MP ਕੈਨ ਹਰਡੀ, ਸੁਖ ਧਾਲੀਵਾਲ, ਪਰਮਬੇਂਸ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਲੋਅਰ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਸਿਸ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਵਧ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਇਸੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਬਜਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਐਕਸਪਲੇਨ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਅਹਿਮਦ ਹੁਸੈਨ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ, ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਨੂੰ ਮੋਰ ਅਫੋਰਡੇਬਲ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਜਾਵੇਗਾ। ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਈਡੀਆ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦਿਓ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੋਰ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਆਟਵਾ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾ ਸਕਣ। ਇਹ ਸੀ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਰਿਲੀਜ਼। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਸਾਂਝਾ TV ਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਅਰਸ਼ਦੀਪ ਨੂੰ ਦਿਓ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ। ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।